Hello and welcome to our podcast, Coffee with the Principals. This is a podcast designed to be recorded and produced in the amount of time it takes me to drink a cup of coffee. Today, I'm having a lovely dark roasted Guatemalan. Yeah, that's good. So let's dive into it. Today, we're going to be exploring the new race and equity policy. We're going to start by really just exploring how it's connected to our pillars. So when we're talking about race and equity, we're really talking about Pillar 1, standards aligned, culturally responsive teaching and learning, and Pillar 3, effective, caring, culturally competent teachers, leaders, and staff. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the development of this policy around race and equity, and really how it's an acknowledgement of the racial inequities in education and how it is a commitment from us to eliminate those inequitable policies and practices and reducing the race and equity achievement gaps through confronting institutional racism through awareness and capacity building as leaders for racial equity on behalf of our scholars at all levels in our district. So while our district supports, our policy directly supports the goals and pillars of the strategic plan, there are a couple that we want to call out specifically. And the first is that we believe that race, socioeconomics, language, cultural background, and other exceptionalities should not be predictors of student achievement. Additionally, we believe that we must continually learn and grow in our practice if we're going to be meeting the needs of all of our scholars. Next, we need to talk about how our policy reinforces the intentional commitment by calling out what it means in each of our 5 goals. So in Goal 1, the early years, each scholar is acquiring the academic, social, emotional skills to be successful beyond the 3rd grade. We talk about Goal 2, that's that thriving, confident, responsible individual. Each scholar knows and understands and embraces his or her own or others' cultural backgrounds and learning needs in order to advocate for themselves and others. In Goal 3, we're really thinking about how each scholar is actively engaged in critical and creative thinking and goal setting and demonstrating cultural competence. In Goal 4, thinking about how each scholar develops that cultural competence as a learner and then applies that knowledge and new skills in different experiences. And then finally, in Goal 5, each scholar starting really early with proactive and supportive skills that can create flexible, individualized transition plans as a tool to really promote accelerated academic performance so that we can really get them to that end goal, which is graduating with the skills they need to be successful. So since 2015, we have been focused on developing our collective capacity in racial equity throughout our system. As the policy was developed, committees comprised of multiple stakeholders were grounded in the strategic plan and the data. The committee unpacked the strategic plan and identified areas where the commitment to equity was already practiced. So now we're just take a few moments to really take a high-level overview of how this policy was developed and who was involved in that development. So the first thing we did is there were some exemplar policies that we received, working with Auburn School District, Kent, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota Public Schools, Seattle Public Schools, Shoreline, and Tukwila. Good coffee. We also worked in consultation with Kent School District, Minneapolis, and PSESD through the Gates Equity Consortium. Then, 30-member committee was made up of multiple stakeholder groups. And then over the course of 9 months, attending about 15 meetings, community members, teachers, administrators, scholars, central office staff, all collaborated to develop this initial version of the draft that was then shared with all the stakeholders. Initial committee meetings were centered in 3 areas: the what, the why, and the who of a policy. The committee unpacked each of these areas to better understand what a policy consisted of, why a school district to have a race and equity policy, and then after development, who the policy would be serving. In the policy's development, several stakeholder groups gave input and feedback. This keeps with our district's commitment of seeking multiple perspectives and voices. Principals in ESC provided feedback in September, scholars during Scholar Advisory meeting, and parent and community voices were captured in an In It Altogether family partnership meeting. And finally, school leadership teams reviewed the policy at the building level, then giving it to the cabinet and leadership team to provide voice and input. I'll share a few of our next steps as we roll the policy out. Our policy is going to be communicated to all of our stakeholders following the theory of action. So we'll use the policy as a guide to inform future work at our school as well as at the district level, particularly related to data analysis, program review, professional learning offerings, and then providing voice and engagement to stakeholders. And as a district and a school, we'll continue our commitment to race and equity training for all of our staff and scholars. We'll also continue regular analysis of data to measure the growth and impact and to create very specific action plans at the school and district levels that will mitigate inequities, all the while ensuring access to high quality instruction using our guaranteed and viable curriculums. At this point, we in the video, if we're watching this at staff meeting as is planned, we will hand out our new policy, and then what we'll have you do is circle any words or phrases that really resonate with you. And then what we'll ask you to do is really think about how this policy will positively impact you and your role as an educator in Federal Way Public Schools. And while that's being handed out, I'm going to just have our policy up on the screen. This is the Race and Equity Policy 0200. And that is our episode of Coffee with the Principals. Thank you for joining us. Hope you had have a really great week, and I hope your coffee is as good as my coffee. Thanks for tuning in.